The UConn football program has an unbelievable opportunity this Saturday in upstate New York. Can they take advantage and upset Syracuse?
You are Locked On UConn, your daily podcast on the UConn Huskies, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Oh, and away we go on a happy Friday and a football Friday. My name is Mike Mutnansky, UConn alumnus and the host here of the Locked On UConn podcast. We thank you for watching. We thank you for listening, and hopefully heading into this back half of 2025, football season, basketball around the corner, you come to make Locked On UConn your first podcast watch, your first podcast listen every single day. Available free wherever you get your podcast. We are free to watch on YouTube. Just search Locked On UConn and subscribe. Of course, all part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your teams every day. A lot to do in today's episode. We'll talk about all things UConn, the importance of this game Saturday in Syracuse, game predictions, my predictions, expert predictions. We'll talk some basketball in the back half of today's show. Today's episode is brought to you by our friends at FanDuel. Forget football season being around the corner. Football season officially here. Visit the FanDuel app today and start planning your future bets. Just a huge opportunity for the UConn football team coming up this Saturday in New York. We started the relaunch of this show Monday, doing an entire episode on football. And I thought it was important because I believe this team is building something special. They're not there yet, but they are building something. You can feel it with Jim Mora's team, with this program, the support of the 37,000, almost 38,000 fans that were there at the Rent on Saturday to see UConn dismantle Central. They're building something here, and they can take a big step forward with a win against Syracuse on the road Saturday at noon against a team that went 10-4 a year ago, a team that you don't like. It's your rival. They're the favorites. It's a big spot for the UConn Huskies Saturday. This game means a lot to me, and I've talked about it a lot this week, and people are getting the sense that maybe, just maybe, I'm pretty committed to this UConn football team, including Nick Aquilino, who jumped in on Twitter yesterday, did a great crossover episode with our buddy Jackson, the Locked On Syracuse podcast. Check that out from Thursday. Nick says, what a homer that guy is for UConn. The way he talks, you think Cuse football is facing Ohio State in the Dome this weekend. I'll give credit to UConn, Nick writes. Jim Mora has revived the program, and they're talented. But to think a much smaller and injury-ridden defense is going to hold Syracuse's offense to the same result as Tennessee is just silly. This game we won in the trenches. There is a massive size and talent advantage for Syracuse that Fran Brown and Jeff Nixon will expose. Nick, appreciate you listening and watching. Guilty as charged. Like, I am committed to this UConn team winning this game on Saturday. And if you care about UConn football, I assume if you're watching Locked On UConn, you're listening to Locked On UConn, you care about the program. If you do, you should care too. This game should mean a lot to you. You should be finding a way, if you're not going to Syracuse on Saturday, to the Carrier Dome, whatever it's called now, you are watching this game, listening to this game Saturday at noon. Because the game for the season and the game for the program, a win, would just mean so much. Let's start with just what it would mean for the season, right? And these are not in any sort of order, but 6 reasons why this is an important game to win and what it can mean for this team. First and foremost, right, selling tickets. You got Delaware this week. You have Ball State the following Saturday. You're seeing the marketing team put a big push on selling tickets right now. Home field advantage is so big for this team. There is no conference tie-in. Independent team, no guaranteed TV. So when you do have TV, you need the place to be banged out. Need the atmosphere to be great, right? And Jim Mora's talking about wanting to get fans in earlier to make it loud earlier in those games. He knows how important a banged out Rent is for this program. You get some casual fans that if you beat Syracuse, you get some casual fans to sell tickets. You will sell hundreds, if not thousands of tickets if you win this game. That'd be big for the program. The Skylar Bell stock. We started this episode on Monday, the show on Monday, talking about Skylar Bell. He is the most talented UConn wide receiver of my lifetime. Okay, they've had a lot of talented offensive players. This is a kid that Wisconsin transfer in, could have gone to Michigan in the offseason, was dangled a lot of money in the NIL portal, $500,000 according to Jim Mora. He ends up staying 4 for 135, 2 touchdowns, and national attention for the way he played in that game. Guess what happens? You win Saturday. That goes up. And I'm not going to say Skylar Bell and Heisman Trophy in the same sentence. That's ludicrous. But you'll see people on social media do it. I won't say it, but you'll see the buzz out there. The Skylar Bell stock, his profile goes up big time. Speaking of profile, every week college football has these bowl game rankings, right? Projections for where you're going to play. You beat Syracuse and go to 2-0, you're not in the bottom tier bowl games anymore. You make a huge boost up and you give hope to the program. You get hope to a bigger game in a bowl game if you win at Syracuse this weekend. How about for this team this year? How about a buy-in? How about a commitment? Not saying they aren't bought in and committed already to Jim Mora's program, but you win right now. Think what the coaching staff can do. You guys are 2-0, have a huge opportunity going forward on the schedule. It happens in every sort of sport. When you win early on in the year, guys buy in more. They become more committed. And if you win at Syracuse, you're going to get some players here that are going to be locked and loaded for Jim Mora going forward. Sponsors, donors, NIL, all that stuff gets a boost when you beat Syracuse, especially with the donors, because the alumni. You should include them as well. Because, again, for a casual fan who's not locked in, a central win, when you put up 638 yards of offense, when you bang the place out, there's some casuals that are saying it's central. They didn't watch the game. They didn't see how explosive Skylar Bell and the offense was. So they brush it off. You win at Syracuse, you beat a team that alumni know they don't like, that's a big deal. And so you get that buy-in. Sponsors, donors, NIL, alumni. You win a game like this. And then number 6, and 6 for a reason in this case, I've said it 10,000 times on this show this week, it keeps the dream alive of 6-0 going to the Boston College game on October 18th. And I keep reiterating that. I envision that in my head, how big that would be. UConn, Boston College, in Boston, 6-0. BC had a big win to start their season. We'll see what their record is. Another team that is a UConn fan you don't like. Understand that, right? BC keeping UConn out of the ACC years and years and years ago. It keeps that dream alive when you win. So from a season standpoint, a game would mean so much. How about nationally, long-term for the program? The national attention. This happens in college football every year. 1 or 2, 3 teams get this extra push from the media because they get out to a good start, because they surprise some people. UConn would get that push. You would see UConn everywhere. Naturally, you have New York media, Boston media. They want this team to be good. Fans don't want the team to be good outside of UConn, right? But the media does because they're right there in your backyard and it's a good story locally. Well, you get to 2-0 and you get a huge national push from the media, sports media, local media. It would certainly start that. Again, bigger picture. I mentioned NIL and donors recruiting. You beat Syracuse. That's a tremendous recruiting message for Jim Mora and this coaching staff to call on recruits. Hey, we beat Syracuse. Come to the Ball State game. It's a big deal for this program. Again, without that conference tie-in, you need things like this. I mentioned Jim Mora. The part of the national media buzz will be a platform for Jim Mora to be a spokesman for UconnFootball. I think he's tremendous with the media. I think he's a great spokesman for what UconnFootball is now and what it could be going forward. And if you win this game on Saturday, he gets an ESPN interview. He starts getting calls from national shows, right? It becomes a much bigger deal. And he's a good guy to have speaking for the program. And by the way, it comes with gravitas because there'll be some people that aren't familiar with UconnFootball that say, oh, yeah, that's Jim Mora. He coached in the NFL. And that's going to have that draw to it too. You win this game, you put your head coach on a national platform. That is huge, huge, huge for the program. Is the season over if they lose? No. Now you can argue it. And Jackson said this yesterday in the crossover episode that for Syracuse, it's a must-win game. It's not technically a must-win game for UConn. Their schedule is such they can still win a decent amount of games. They can probably still go to a bowl game. So the season's not over if you lose this game in Syracuse on Saturday. But if you win this game, sky's the limit in terms of not just this season, but the program going forward and what it can mean for program building. So when Nick says what a homer this guy is for UConn, the way he talks, you think Syracuse football is facing Ohio State this weekend in the Dome? Yeah, I'm committed because I recognize what this game could mean for UconnFootball this year, big picture, and going forward. I wonder if the players are feeling that this week. I know the Syracuse players are. There's a must-win for them. They have Colgate on Friday. Imagine they're 0-2. Syracuse 0-2 with Colgate looming on Friday and their season basically out the window. They're feeling it. I wonder if UConn players are feeling it heading into this game. You can follow us on Twitter at LockedOnUConn. I'd be curious. Your thoughts on this game, your predictions on this game. as we get set for UConn and Syracuse coming up Saturday in upstate New York. Meanwhile, I got some game takes to spit out about this game. I got game predictions. Other predictions, no one's picking UConn. There's a lot of people picking Syracuse. We'll talk about the game next year. Locked on UConn. Do not go anywhere. All right, it is almost the weekend. Time to look back and crown this week's MVP on Who Delivered, powered by DoorDash. Just like you can win every Saturday with DoorDash streaks, saving more every time you order, these players deliver when it mattered most. Let's break it down. Very simple. For week one for the Huskies, player of the week, the guy we already talked about, Skylar Bell. 2 touchdowns, 4 catches, 135 yards, 80-yard touchdown, 12-yard touchdown. He was awesome. When the pressure was on, he came through. No hesitation, no delay. And if you've been watching week after week and going back to last year, not a fluke for Skylar Bell. He is poised to have another big game this weekend in New York. Just like Skylar Bell delivered for UConn, DoorDash delivers your Saturdays. With DoorDash streaks, you save every Saturday you order. Stack it up all season. You could save up to $250, including $100 in DoorDash credits. Order this Saturday. Keep the streak alive. Fuel your game day. Only with DoorDash. Terms apply. Promo period through November 18th. Mazda crafts cars for those who choose to do more than simply move. They follow what moves them every time they drive. And that's what makes Mazda stand out. They go beyond safety, style, and performance to deliver driving experiences that feel alive in every detail. Mazda offers more than safety. It's won more 2025 IIHS Top Safety Plus awards than anyone else. That's of August 2025. As an athlete focuses on every detail, Mazda does the same, from metallic accents to hand-stitched Napa leather. It's the small details that make the big plays. And just like there's more to every player, there's more to a Mazda vehicle. Mazda, move and be moved. All right, let us know what you think about this game on Twitter. You can check us out there. Locked on UConn podcast, Locked on UConn on Twitter, Locked on UConn podcast on YouTube, or wherever you do get your podcast. I'm pretty heavily involved in this game. I think it means so much for the program. It means so much for the team this year. But as far as like experts and what they're picking, sort of looking around what's gone on here in college football, there is not a lot of people that is excited to get on this UConn bandwagon and pick UConn. Fox Sports, looking at some of their breakdown for this game, they have picked Syracuse in this game, right? Looking at some of the expert picks for this game heading into Saturday. It's a big game for the program. They got 35-23. Syracuse, they think the talent edge is the big deal there for Syracuse. In the Daily Orange, the beat writers there up in Syracuse, they have across the board unanimous. They have picked Syracuse to win this game. 38-24 was the most common score there. The Reddit fan base there thinking UConn can outperform. That's on UConn. Winners and whiners, they like UConn's blowout win, but Syracuse needs to respond. Just looking up and down this board here, there are most people across the board. They are picking Syracuse to win this game. Let's start with why UConn can win this game. And let's take a step back. Let's talk about the game line for a second. And I follow this stuff. We follow the money, follow Vegas. The gambling is an interesting part of it for this game. This game opened 8.5 with our friends at FanDuel. As of this morning, the line is down to 6.5. And the places that I look that show sharp money, they're saying a lot of the money's come in on UConn, the sharp money, right? And it's interesting because when you look at the public bets that have come in, more bets and more money publicly has come in on Syracuse. So normally when that happens, the betting line would go in favor of Syracuse. Like, okay, they're betting this team. We got to move the point spread up. It's going the other way. Reverse line move of sorts for the UConn Huskies. So I will say going into Saturday, forget all the experts pick I just gave you across the board. The money itself, to me, is saying UConn's got a big chance to win this game. If they're going to win this game, right, if UConn wins, it's explosive offensive plays. Gordon Samus, the offensive coordinator, he showed you some of that this past weekend against Central, but I felt like he held some back. You know, Skylar Bell did not play in the second half. He didn't get any touches out of the backfield. I think you see more of that in this game. And as I've watched UConn the last couple of years, as I've watched UConn historically, they've been teams that run the football and play good defense. This team feels different. This UConn team feels like offensively, they could be similar to last year's team. Last year's team put up the second highest point total in school history, scoring over 400 points. They have a chance to eclipse that again this year because they're so explosive offensively. And what I like about that is that when you watch college football, you watch games this weekend across the board, you watch the UConn game, you watch the big games in the afternoon, primetime on Saturday night. The best teams are explosive offenses, and they make plays downfield, and they get yards in chunks. They're not asking their offenses to get into 12, 13, 14 play drives. And maybe this UConn team can do that, but I think they're better suited trying to hit those big plays. They have the players to do it. I mentioned Skylar Bell. He'll be an impact player. Cam Edwards, who was bottled up in this game a year ago against Syracuse, he'll be a big factor. Mel Brown out of the backfield. He got some touches late after Cam Edwards got his 6 carries for almost 120 yards last week against Central. Like, you have the skill players to do it. And I referenced him a couple times this week, and I'll be curious to see what Samus does with Terrence Smith Jr. Terrence Smith Jr. got a carry, went 81 yards for a touchdown, lined up next to Joe Fagnano in the backfield, scored, got brought back on a holding. But just watching him explosively make that run, he looks like a player that could be one of these other game-changing type of players. I'm not sure how much he'll play. I'm not sure he's somebody who's going to be on this field for 80% of the snaps for Gordon Samus on Saturday. But he's a player that when he touches the football can take it 80 yards for a touchdown. And so I think they'll try to use him and this offense to exploit a Syracuse defense that struggled defensively last year and struggled defensively last week. Last year, the defense of Syracuse was the issue. They had a high-powered offense. They were 10-4. They're very good. This year, or the numbers last year, 91st in points allowed in all of college football. They were also 110th was that team, that Syracuse defense, in terms of yards allowed per game. You saw immediately out of the gate against Tennessee, they gave up a bunch of yards, gave up points. Tennessee is a better offense than UConn. I'm not going to sit here and pretend that what Tennessee did to Syracuse can happen again. But I do think they make big plays against the Syracuse team. It has been their issue now for a couple of years, and I think they can take advantage. I think the big plays for Fagnano, Skylar Bell, Cam Edwards, Mel Brown, the entire offense, Terrence Smith Jr., that's going to be the game-changing factor for me. If they're going to win the game, that'll be the big factor. We'll be coming on here Monday and saying they made big plays. The offense is, again, explosive, and they scored enough points to beat Syracuse because Syracuse is going to score. And if UConn loses this game, it's because they're too undersized on defense. They've gone to this 3-3-5 the last couple of years. Up front, they have just one defensive lineman that weighs more than 300 pounds. Like, you can push around UConn's defense. I thought Central did it last week. And then Giamora came on and use the word disappointed when he talked about UConn's defense in the aftermath of that game. Central was able to push them around a little bit, and UConn missed some tackles. I think Taekwon King is a huge factor. He should probably be, when I talk about keys to the game defensively, if they're going to win, I gave you the offensive guys, King's going to have a huge game. Middle of that defense, making tackles and making sure Syracuse does not break off big plays. Because Syracuse has a workhorse running back in Yassine Willis. They have a quarterback in Angeli that can make plays. Like, they're going to score, right? They're going to score points, and it's going to be about UConn. It's not an old cliche like creating turnover. It's not about that. It's about, for them defensively, not against Syracuse and not putting themselves in a spot where Syracuse on the other side of the ball is able to make those plays. Like, offensively, they've got to score. Defensively, keep up with Syracuse and not allow those monster plays left and right. That is my biggest concern going into the game, is defensively, can they stop the orange up front? Because I'm not sure they're built to stop a team that wants to, run it down their throat. And I'll go back to what Morris said, Jim Morris said on Monday after the game, when he said, if I watch the film and I'm Syracuse, I'm running the football right down our throats. And so it was interesting to talk to Jackson yesterday in our crossover podcast about, in his opinion, he sort of thinks that they're going to go out there and throw the football 45, 50 times. I can't imagine they will. Now, if they trail in this game, Syracuse can do that. And I think UConn's probably better equipped to stop the pass than they are stop the run. So I'm not sure, how much they'll be upset if that ends up being the game plan for the Syracuse offense. But I do think in worst case scenario, Syracuse rules time possession. They pound the ball with Willis, and UConn just cannot stop the Syracuse running game. Like that's how it goes wrong for UConn in this game. That's how they don't win. That's how we come on here Monday and say they did not take advantage of this opportunity. But I think they'll make the big plays. I think that they are poised for a huge opportunity. And I have it UConn 30, Syracuse 28. Lower scoring than Jackson had it yesterday on our crossover episode. It's going to take a turnover or two to keep Syracuse in the 20s. If they do, UConn wins this game. If it's a super high scoring game and they get into the upper 30s and the 40s, that might be an issue. That's probably where it goes well for Syracuse. But if UConn's able to make their plays offensively, not give up those same big plays on the defensive side of the ball, they can win this game, and they can create a new narrative for UConn football. Not just the other team with the basketball program in stores in East Hartford. They can be a team that we're talking about all week locally. We're talking about them nationally. So am I locked into UConn? Do I seem overly enthusiastic about them potentially winning? If I do, it's truth be told, that's how I feel. Because it means so much for the program. So I think they'll go up there and win. I think they'll upset Syracuse. I think the final scores will be 30-28. Win or lose, we'll talk about it next week. Let us know. Let me know who you like in this game. LockedOnUconnShow@gmail.com. LockedOnUconnShow@gmail.com. You can always email us comments, concerns, ideas about the show, ideas for guests, all of that. LockedOnUconnShow@gmail.com is the way to get in touch with us. Or comment on the YouTube page. Leave a comment there for us on this video. Who do you like? Maybe you're a UConn fan picking UConn. Maybe you're a Syracuse fan who found us from the crossover with Locked On Syracuse. Let us know who you like this game. Let us know why you like UConn to win this game or lose this game. Could be either. I got them winning the game 30-28. I want to come back and circle back to, as we wrap up this Football Friday, Dan Hurley's book excerpt that came out this week. It was a big story locally and nationally for UConn. And I want to talk about an image that involves UConn basketball that has got a lot of people outside Connecticut very upset. We'll do that coming up here. It is the Locked On UConn podcast. Wherever you get your podcast, whether it's audio or video, just search Locked On UConn. All right, UConn fans, listen up. Are you still paying full price for gas? Stop leaving money behind. Get real cash back every time you fill up with the free Upside app. Simply download the free Upside app in the App Store or Google Play right now and start earning cash at the pump today. Use my limited time promo code FOOTBALL. Get an extra 25 cents back per gallon on your first fill up. You can make up to $300 a year just from buying the gas you already needed. At first, I thought personally too good to be true, but it's totally legit. Real people are getting paid to make their daily commutes. You can too. Plus, you can cash out anytime to your bank account, PayPal, or an e-gift card for Amazon and other brands. Don't let this offer drive on by. Download the free Upside app right now. Use my limited promo code FOOTBALL for limited time and get a 25-cent per gallon bonus. Use my promo code FOOTBALL. Offer varies by user and location. Go to upside.com for terms and conditions. Football season is not almost here. Football season is here. NFL on Thursday, all weekend. College, obviously. This week, you have it all weekend. You get football no matter where you look. Thank God. FanDuel is making sure you're ready for kickoff with a can't-miss offer. Right now, new customers bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. I love using FanDuel because it fits the way that I want to play. Here's a live bet that I want to make. I'm watching a game, live action, jump in there. Player props, which I love. Building same-game parlays. They have all of that on FanDuel and the FanDuel app. So, football season, what are you waiting for? Are you ready to play? Download the FanDuel app right now by going to FanDuel.com to get started. That is FanDuel.com to place your first $5 bet. Football is here. Let's go. All right, Football Friday here on the Locked On UConn podcast. UConn Syracuse, full reaction on Monday to whatever we see Saturday. Good or bad, we'll have it for you in the Locked On UConn podcast, both in audio and video form. It's interesting. The Dan Hurley reaction was more muted than I thought. Dan Hurley in a book excerpt that came out this week, courtesy of Andrew Marchand of The Athletic. Dan Hurley basically said, I'll summarize it for you, that he almost walked away from UConn basketball last year. Talked about burnout, talked about his struggles emotionally, letting the emotions get the best of him there in Maui to start the year. The pressures of not only trying to win a third straight championship, but then NIL and recruiting. Basically admitted like, yeah, I almost walked away. Thankfully for us as UConn fans, he did not do that. And I thought this was going to lead to this huge overreaction of Hurley's got a foot out the door. He's going to TV, right? Part of that report was that he had talked to Fox, he had talked to Jay Wright and said maybe going to TV for a year. I think sabbatical was a term that he used in the book excerpt. And again, we have just the excerpt so far. Book due out into September. He and Ian O'Connor will join us on this show as we get closer to the release of that book. And we'll have a better context for what Dan Hurley said as part of that excerpt we saw on Wednesday. But I thought the reaction would be UConn screwed. He's going somewhere else. You're buried. Really hasn't been. My reaction is similar to what it's been nationally. I'm surprised that a sort of realistic, like, this guy burns bright. He works hard. He's he's wired differently. He's a type A personality. Like, of course he felt burnt out at the end of last year. He put so much pressure on himself to win a third straight championship when it started poorly for him. In his mind, he was a failure. Of course he wasn't. They won back-to-back championships. Like, they're in no way was he a failure last year for this team. I'm sure the ultimate goal was a failure. I'm sure that he wanted to win a championship. But, like, I hope that by now that he's back with the program and out recruiting, like, he recognizes I put too much pressure on myself. And like a lot of us in any sort of walk of life, you thought, hey, I might quit my job. Decide not to do it. And that's been the national reaction. I think I've seen in some of my mentions and some of the comments, like people saying that, Hurley's making this all about himself. Like, yes, he's selling a book, but I don't get the sense that he's doing it for any other reason besides helping to sell a book as part of the excerpt. He's an honest guy. Like, he wears emotions on his sleeve. You watched him coach on the sideline now for years. You know what Dan Hurley is. He's emotional. He says what he thinks, no matter who you are. In this case, he thought I might have walked away and include that as part of the book. So I give Hurley credit for doing it. And I'm pleasantly surprised the national attention has not been like, oh, UConn's buried. He's walking away. It's been more about, hey, that's Dan Hurley. He was honest. Good for him. Can't wait for the book to come out end of September. Something that Brent Axe mentioned. He does a Syracuse podcast with a guest with him. And part of that NIL thing that I talked about on this show a couple of days ago, where I think that going forward, more and more coaches are going to point to the NIL and the pressures of NIL being an issue for them. And eventually they'll start to make some tweaks to it because it's a wild, wild west right now. Transfer portal, all this money. I assume in the next 5 years, we'll see some sort of tweak to make it less stressful on the coaches. Dan Hurley's the face of college basketball. And if he's saying this, and if more of this book, and we'll see it later on this month, is talking about the NIL, that's going to start the conversation going about how do we change this, how to make it less stressful for coaches. He has that sort of power. And I had not thought about that until Brett brought that up. And I had not thought about that until he said it the way he did, face of college basketball. He is. Like, he's the UConn coach. He's immensely popular here locally. He is a lightning rod for opinions outside of Connecticut, but he is the face of college basketball. He just is. And if he is going to start talking about the pressures of NIL, he did so last year in that CBS interview, saying he's going to lose 50% of his roster. He thought he might at that point. That's going to start that conversation. And so I'll be interested as the book comes out, as we get more and more from the book, how much is dedicated to that and how much his words carry weight in college basketball going forward. Because I think they might. But he's out there. He's recruiting right now. He's talking to different players. Dylan Mingo, number one recruit, is going to be at UConn this weekend. 6'5" point guard, 5th in the country, number one rated point guard. Like, we talked to start the week about Silas Demery Jr. as he transfers in. You want that point guard in waiting? This would be the guy. So it doesn't seem like Hurley has lost a step in terms of recruiting. And I think UConn will continue to be a destination going forward and a big, big weekend, not just for UConn football, but for UConn basketball recruiting as well. I mentioned a picture that's sort of going, pull this up here, a picture that's going viral on social media, viral in my circles, and I'll put it up here on YouTube. And it's basically, it's the sign, an only in Boston account ended up putting this out there and got some buzz, but it's the sign that says, "Welcome to Connecticut, home of the basketball capital of the world." And I'm not sure why people are reacting so poorly to this. Have they seen what's happened in UConn? The last 25, 30 years? They have 18 national championships in stores in East or Hartford. Let's call it stores. 18 national championships since 1995. Like, It's the college basketball capital of the world. No one else comes close. I'm not sure why my buddy PRC in Indiana is talking about how Indiana is the basketball capital. Right now, college basketball, it is Storrs, Connecticut. It is the epicenter of all things college basketball. About 18 national championships, okay? High-profile coaches, star players, future NBA stars, beautiful facilities, right? Every team wants to emulate what UConn basketball is doing on the men's and women's side. It's the college basketball capital. What are we doing? Why is that some sort of issue for basketball fans? I'm sorry, that's the reality. Until you're dethroned, like UConn is right there with the best programs in the country. To me, they stand alone. You don't have to talk about comparisons to other big name programs. I'm not going to mention them. UConn is right there. When you talk about the biggest programs, the best programs in college basketball, UConn is in the conversation. They won almost 20 championships in 1995. Like, they are what people want to be. They are the model. That's basketball capital of the world. And if people take offense to that, I'm not sure I get the anger towards that. I'm not sure I get the backlash towards that. Sorry, well, beat them. Build better programs. Like that. That's what I would say. And until then, yes, Storrs, Connecticut. That's where it is. Another big moment on Locked On. College football fans. Huge college weekend. Locked On and Fire TV present College Football Kickoff, your ultimate college football weekly preview. Drake Toll and Locked On Big 12 lead the conversation alongside two-time AP Coach of the Year Gary Patterson, former college star Jesse Holley, and Locked On's local experts. A college football preview only Locked On can do. Catch College Football Kickoff every Thursday throughout the season only on Fire TV. I cannot say thank you enough. You made it this far in the show. I cannot say thank you enough. The support has been unbelievable to relaunch this show here starting on Monday. Your comments, your emails. I got some very nice emails this week. And as I said, I want to start to read some of those emails, do like a Fan Friday coming up. Maybe do Fan Fridays, Fanfare Fridays, something like that. Let you guys get more involved in the show as we head into the weekend. You can comment on the YouTube page, Locked On UConn. You can get us on the DMs are open on Twitter or X, Locked On UConn there as well. Locked On UConn Show at gmail.com. Locked On UConn Show at gmail.com. Been fun to get this thing going here this week. Obviously, Mark hosted the show for a long time, built up a great following, and hopefully you'll give this show a chance. If you're a former listener to the show, if you're a new listener, appreciate you being here. Daily UConn coverage every single day in the podcast form and audio and on video on YouTube. And that is the goal, to make you guys want to tell other UConn fans. Like I want you to watch. I want you to listen. I want you to enjoy what you hear and watch and you're listening to, but I also want you to tell other UConn fans and say, hey, check this out. Locked On UConn podcast, worth your time. I got it. UConn 30, Syracuse 28. It's going to happen Saturday at noon, ESPN Plus. Looking forward to it. Enjoy the game on Saturday. Win or lose, we'll recap it on Monday. Appreciate you watching. Appreciate you listening. Have a great weekend.
Go Huskies.